All right, what's going on, guys? We are back with another video today. This is actually the precursor to the video, and it's not just the precursor to one video. This is the precursor to several videos. I actually filmed these, and I thought it was a super good video to film, and I kind of wanted to do this throughout the season. It's just kind of a challenging video to film for a couple of different reasons. One, it's not really a fish catching video. Two, it's all non-scripted and you just kind of have to go and do it, but you'll see what I mean. And it's basically, I wanted to show you guys how to find the best seasonal walleye spots for that time of year. You know, if you're unfamiliar with the body of water, or if you're just struggling, this is kind of the same thing I do, kind of no matter where I'm walleye fishing in the middle of summer, to quickly find some of the best spots. And there's several patterns kind of going on every lake and stuff like that. So this video is basically all about, and it's going to walk you through, there's kind of three different areas that I look for a lot of midsummer walleyes, and we're going to kind of walk you through those. So this will be the first video. The next day we'll probably air another one, the next day we'll probably air another one, but it was kind of too much information to pack it all into one like 40-45 minute video, so I wanted to make it a couple different ones. So this video is going to be all about basically finding weed walleyes in the middle of summer. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. Let's watch it. Check. Are we rolling? Are we rolling? We are rolling. What's going on, guys? We are back out on the lake today. I actually just got done filming that spinner rig video a couple hours ago. Went back, dumped the footage, and we're back out. And I was kind of wondering what to film, and I want to film one of those videos that I think is incredibly beneficial yet somewhat challenging to film because there's not really videos like it. And that's basically how to find good summer walleye spots. And I think you guys are going to get a lot out of this video, especially if, a lot of us have a lot of success in the spring targeting walleyes. Once the fish push deeper in the summer, a lot more of us probably tend to struggle overall, kind of when those fish make that jump out into more of these basin related spots. And that's kind of what I want today's video to be about, kind of a step-by-step process, how you can look at a map, use the tools that I have, on my mapping stuff, and then go over to my sonar, down imaging, side imaging, and go around those spots and find some fish, right? And then we'll probably try to like catch a fish on each spot or something like that too. But that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna start driving around. We're gonna start with the map, and we're gonna kind of go over a number of different type of spots, right? And we'll kind of talk about that as we get into it, because one thing you notice when you start doing this a lot is normally there's a couple of different things going on in lakes, right? And a lot of times what you see in the summer is you might have a rock relating deeper bite that might be set up, these fish might be set up deep, and then you might have a slightly shallower weed oriented bite or something like that. If you're fishing like a river system, you might have fish in a heavy current area that might be shallower than fish that are out in like a main basin of that river system, right? And a lot of times there's several different things going on, so we're gonna kind of go into that and start driving around, showing you the map, showing you some fish, and hopefully catching a few fish. So I think it's gonna be extremely beneficial. Stay tuned, let's get it going. All right, so where do you start when you're looking for summer spots? Pretty much the same place you start whenever you're looking for spots, and that's you always start with the map. I am running Lake Master in my boat. I always get asked what chip I'm running. I'm just running whatever the newest version of the Lake Master chip is. Normally I buy one every couple of years because they keep adding more detail to them and stuff like that, or I just end up losing the chip for some obscure reason. But that's what I run. And the Hummingbirds are obviously compatible with Lake Master. I think you can do a lot of the same highlighting that I'm about to do on Lowrance, and I'm gonna do my best to kind of videotape kind of what I'm showing you guys on the graph while I'm doing it here. So the first thing we want to do is do some depth highlighting. Now, this is the part that's kind of specific lake to lake, right? And a lot of lakes will have a summer weed bite. And you probably saw a lot of videos where we were fishing like an inside edge of the weeds, or you're fishing right in the weeds or right on the sides. In the summer, it is almost always an outside edge bite. Generally, it's no secret that a lot of times these fish start shallower in the spring, early summer, then summer they end up very basin oriented and very on the outside shelf of the weeds if there is a weed bite going. So, one of the first things you can do to identify where that weed edge is drive around some spots, and once you find that weed, kind of make a mental note of where that outside edge is. And we'll throw a screenshot in here, something like this. So you can see this outside edge is like 13, 14 feet right in there, right? And that's perfect because it gives a lot of depth for these fish to be in. Lakes like there might not be that good of a weed bite in the summer as lakes where it has like a 4-foot weed edge, right? But a lot of times in those flowagey or more stained water systems, if you have a cabbage edge or a coontail edge in that 8 to 12 feet, that might be the summer spot too. So whenever we're talking about weeds, I always like to highlight that edge. And a lot of times it's not like fish are gonna be like, boom, here's the weeds and here's the edge this time of year. They'll kind of use these flats that are just outside of that weed edge. So one of the first things we're gonna do here is, like I said, my weed edge is about 13 feet. So I'm gonna go to my depth highlight, which is just menu, and I'm gonna come into here to the Humminbird chart, and I'm gonna scroll down until I find depth highlight, right? And I got this at 16 right now, which is pretty much what I want for this, right? And I'm gonna dial my depth highlight range to 3. Now what this is gonna do is gonna highlight everything between 13 feet and 19 feet of water. And this is gonna kind of show me that edge real good, right? Or kind of a lot of these flat spots that are in that zone. So we're gonna exit out of this here real quick, and I'm gonna come back, and right away, one spot that pops out is something that looks like this right here, right? So, you know, one thing that this hump has going for it for sure is that it is very basin oriented. You can see we got like 40, 50 feet, a lot of 40. It's surrounded by deep water, right? Weeds are much more likely in the summer to hold walleyes when they are very basin oriented like this. You know, this isn't a 13-foot hump way in the back of a bay with not a lot of deep water around it. There's a lot of deep water around this. These fish have a very quick exit out to basin. And this is the kind of spot that we want to look for sure. Now, if you kind of zoom in here, you can see the top's about 13. And because the top is about 13 on this hump, these fish can probably slide right up on top even, right? And this is definitely well in this depth zone where I would expect to see fish this time of year. And you can see it's also got some points and stuff like that, kind of one off each side, some flatter spots. So if these fish are not on top, it's my guess they're gonna be right here or right here on this other tip. So next thing we can do is we can start driving around, probably with sonar and side imaging in case we see some of those fish right under us, kind of on the tips of that hump. And we're definitely gonna be running side imaging in case those fish are right up on top, and we're not gonna be able to mark them that well depending on how thick the weeds are. So kind of the next thing we can do is drive around this spot, which is what we're about to do, and look for some fish. All right, so we're driving around the top of this hump right now, and we're just kind of scouting it out. And there's definitely some weeds up here. It's kind of fringy. There's not as much weeds here as there could be for sure. You know, a lot of lakes, they might be choked out to like 13 on one spot. Another spot, they might be kind of fringy. That part doesn't really matter too much. How they set up might be different. But there's also a few rocks up here, which is always good when you have a little bit of a mix of stuff. And right now we're just looking around. There's some bald spots in here, which is good. And they could very easily be out on the tip of this in 22 feet or right on top in 13. When you throw weeds into the mix, these fish are generally more likely to come shallow if there is weeds present. And I'll kind of flip over to my down imaging here. So what you can see here is we got tufts of weeds here, tufts of weeds here. I can't really tell what kind of weeds those are. That part's not really super important. But as we're cruising around here, we're running side imaging. I kind of got a big tuft of weeds right here. And on top of this, it's much more likely we're gonna see fish with side imaging than we will with sonar, just because of the depth. And it just takes time driving around. That is just kind of the key to doing this, right? This isn't like you're just gonna come out here and plop right down on a big school of fish right away, right? That just does not happen. So we got some good weeds here for sure. All right, so there's actually some fish off my left right now. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a screenshot for you guys. And you can see right here, I'll overlay it. This is not a great big pot of fish, but you can see there's a pot of fish right here, right? And the first thing you can do is scroll over on side imaging and waypoint those fish. And we'll kind of keep cruising here to see if we see something more intriguing. But that's what we want to see, right? We were right up on top. Now, more than likely, because this is a pretty decent sized hump, there's going to be several pockets of fish like that. And kind of the goal is to figure out what they're relating to, or if they are relating to anything. You know, obviously they're relating to the top of the hump, but is there a little weed pocket? Okay, so here's another pot of fish right here. You can see them right here. I was kind of turning, so they're not going to come up super crisp. And here's exactly what I'm talking about. I'll throw a screenshot up right here. So there's actually some rock on top of this, and you can see the pot of fish just off to the side of that, right? So I'm going to assume that those fish are relating to that rock line. It's a pretty insignificant rock line, but it's just enough to hold those fish kind of probably in that area. And you can see I did not go very far between those two pods of fish. And you know, we can definitely probably assume that those fish are relating to that rock line. And that's exactly always the goal whenever you're fishing a spot, is figure out what those fish are relating to, and that's what you want to be around, right? Because you might find a pot of fish that's in 17 feet of water on a sand break, and those fish might be very difficult to catch because they're just flying through a spot, right? So that's kind of how you pick apart these kind of weedy, a little bit shallower humps. Now this is not the primary bite that's probably going on out here, or it might be. I don't really know. I have not been out on this lake a whole bunch, but you know, generally when you have water temps that are low 70s, mid 70s, there's probably also a deeper water bite, right? Like I talked about, weeds have the tendency to hold fish shallow, and there probably will be a deeper bite on some rocks, which is what we're going to talk about next. All right, bobber down right away. Oh yeah, hooked up. Little walleye here. Not the size we are really after, but it is a decent little 15-incher. Right out of that pod, did not take very long. And they are definitely on the slip bobber thing. I've been filming a whole bunch of different stuff, but slip bobber, especially when it just kind of gets like this out, super hot, middle of the day type stuff. It's been tough to beat the old slip bobber. But there we go, I got one there, Surly. Point proven.